Okay, hello, welcome to this video. We are at 11:50 p.m., just minutes away from the doomsday cuts on the Long Island Railroad taking place. And I want to talk about this a little bit because it's been in the news, and I'm going to really congratulate everybody at the Passengers United team because we really got the press involved. We got coverage. They were, as I talked about yesterday, they were at today. They were at in front of Governor Cuomo's office in Midtown, and talking about that these cuts need to stop. This governor needs to step down. Pat Foy needs to resign as well. And there's a lot of people now calling for Governor Cuomo to resign, but of course, just like Donald Trump, he's not. He's refusing to resign, of course. And some people are coming to his defense. Schumer is one of them, no surprise. All the Wall Street people coming to his defense. But most people want Cuomo to resign. You hear nearly 50 New York lawmakers calling for the governor to either resign or be impeached. New York State Senate Majority Leader calls on the governor to resign, as well as the House, the State House as well. So this guy is just unbelievable. This Cuomo guy, this guy's a real dirtbag. All right, real dirtbag. Anyway, I want to talk about what happened today. So we're going to play for you some stories from Passengers United, featuring Passengers United, featuring the president of Passengers United, Charlton DeSouza, and you'll see Matt there as well. And I'm sure they're going to have coverage as well on their thing. I wish I could have been there, but I was just I didn't even have the energy to go to the Pine Barrens today. So even though it was sunny, I didn't even have the energy for that because I was beat after Friday. But thanks to everybody who did get involved, and of course I'm doing what I can. Of course, News 12 doesn't have the story on their website, but they were featured on News 12 as well. As WNBC TV. I don't know if they were on NBC site, but I have recorded the video from my TV, so I'm going to play that now.
Protesters rallying against Cuomo on Sunday outside of his Manhattan office. Transportation advocates calling for his resignation over sexual harassment allegations, and as the MTA faces service cuts starting on Monday.
Governor Cuomo always says that he wants control of the MTA, and the MTA is his agency. Well, you know what? He's mismanaged it.
The group says ridership is slowly coming back as COVID numbers are improving and as New York City is beginning to reopen. A warning before you head out the door in the morning. LIRR
to get to work. Here for some big changes tomorrow morning thanks to drastic service cuts. Many lines are going down to half-hour or hourly service. Some will now only see service every 2 hours, which makes getting to your stop on time even more critical. News 4's Phil Lipoff explains what you need to know.
The last-minute sprint to get to your train. It can be the difference in getting home for dinner or making it to work on time. But with the LIRR initiating a new schedule starting tomorrow, missing a train now will cost you even more time.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
We found Alana Markham buying her ticket to get back to Long Island. She didn't know about the changes. The LIRR says it needs to align service more closely with ridership, which is down 76% since COVID hit. It will keep off-peak fares on all trains even during peak hours, and there will be continued service on all 11 branches, just not as many trains running. So this probably won't surprise you, but the folks we spoke to here at Penn Station who use the LIRR tell us they don't need fewer trains, they actually need more trains.
I do not agree with that at all. That's
frustrating.
That is very frustrating because on a daily basis, I mean, if you don't want to drive to the city, you want to have easy access. That's the whole point of the system.
We showed Alana the site to go to see the new schedule.
Do you mind if I take a picture?
They're going to leave essential workers stranded on the Long Island Railroad.
At a rally in front of Governor Cuomo's offices, calls for the governor to resign over what Passengers United calls his mismanagement of the MTA, which will now benefit from the American Rescue Plan just passed in the Senate to the tune of $6 billion. Passengers United says that should be enough to keep full service going. But the damage has already been done, and as inconvenient as fewer trains will be for Shira Eben, she gets it.
Considering that this train is pretty empty right now, that's definitely a good way to save money.
quick to point out that nobody is losing their job here. No one is being furloughed. And even the most aggravated rider I spoke to today was happy about that. No one wants to see any more loss of jobs during a pandemic. As for the new train schedule, there will be no handouts here at the station. Everything is online. We'll help you get to those train times. Just go to NBCNewYork.com and we'll link you to it. At the Moynihan Train Hall, Phil Lipoff, News 4 New York.
So we know these cuts are going to be absolutely devastating. And the fact that the MTA is going ahead with this, even though we are just days away from a new package, a new coronavirus aid package that will give $6 billion to the MTA. I think it's preposterous that the Long Island Railroad and the MTA continue to go ahead with these cuts. But that's because they don't care. This is Cuomo's plan to destroy public transportation. That's all it's about, is destroying public transportation. He wants to privatize all this stuff. And, the first way to do is to get the railroad to lose riders. It's like, well, we've got too much riders. What can we do to get rid of them? Well, by cutting service. And that's exactly what's going to happen. A lot of branches. Ronkonkoma really gets screwed again with this. Because some parts of the main line, obviously Nassau County and Mineola, we're not getting hit too bad. But like I said, a lot of the stations are. Even after the 5:35 train out of Ronkonkoma, it's one train every hour. 6:31, 7:31, 8:31. Packed those trains are going to be. Ronkonkoma only gets a lot of ridership. It's going to be dangerous overcrowding in the morning. And then the same thing in the evening. 3:12, 4:12, 5:12, 6:12. There's only one extra train at 6:39, and that's it. And then 7:12, 8:12. These trains are going to be jam-packed. Jam-packed. It's ridiculous. And the Babylon branch also getting hit, as we know. We went over the Babylon branch, that some of the local stations are going to see hourly service, but still, they're still going to get more service than the Ronkonkoma branch. I still think the most crowded trains are going to be those Ronkonkoma trains, followed by the Babylon branch, probably, be the second most crowded. And then the third probably will be Port Washington, because they're seeing a lot of their service cut too. Hourly service out of Port Washington. What kind of crap is this hourly service in the middle of rush hour? Give me a break already. Really, these cuts need to be stopped. And I'm disappointed in. Who am I disappointed in? Let me tell you who I'm disappointed in. Anna Kaplan, this woman right here, wrote her office. Is she getting involved in this? Is she involved in about this at all? Has she ever done a damn thing about the railroad? No. At least Todd Kaminsky is sort of getting it. He isn't even doing it. She's with Wall Street. The only person you see her in this picture that said anything publicly about these cuts, Jim Gorgren. That's it. But her, this guy here, Kevin Thomas, it's like they're all looking out for a certain demographic. I don't know, and this is because a certain demographic doesn't take the train. A certain demographic, most of these Wall Street people, especially those on the South Shore, of course, they're not even commuting on the trains. They're doing work from home, most of them. So, it doesn't affect them. So, it's not good for your area. It's going to hurt your area. It's hurting all of us. And look, I said before, we've got to work together. But, I'm disappointed in Anna Kaplan, all right? Because I wrote a letter to her, and actually I'm going to read that letter to you right now. All right, so this is the letter that I had spoken to, I believe his name was Mr. Brady, one of Anna Kaplan's assistants. And this is what I wrote. We spoke on the phone the other day in response to my complaint about the LIRR cutting service on March 8th. I called him on the phone. He said to write a letter. All right, so I'm requesting that Senator Kaplan intervene to stop the LIRR cuts from happening. These cuts will eliminate most rush hour service and leave most stations with weekend levels of service and 1 hour waits between trains, even in rush hour. This will cause many trains to be overcrowded, and the Port Washington and Babylon branches are getting hit the hardest with these cuts. We're still in a pandemic, which means it's important people be able to be spaced out from each other, but this will be impossible once these cuts take place. The MTA is violating CDC guidelines as well as not even giving a fair hearing to implementing such radical service changes. They say it will save them $15 million, but there will be many who will now choose to drive and not purchase their monthly tickets. causing the MTA to lose yet more revenue. More traffic on our roads means more greenhouse gases in our atmosphere as well. It is important to note that our neighboring state, New Jersey, isn't cutting NJ Transit service at all because their governor supports funding transit and has raised taxes on millionaires to keep essential services running. With more federal help on the way, why must the MTA insist on these cuts taking place? I feel there is tremendous corruption at the MTA and that the governor is involved in it. Cuomo has had a close relationship with Ed Mangano, former Nassau County executive, who was convicted of corruption. And isn't it interesting that Pat Foy, who was deputy county executive at the time, now is MTA chairman? Ever since Foy assumed the role, we've seen the MTA violate its own policies of providing alternative transportation such as busing during planned and unplanned service disruptions. MTA stopped sending out buses to shuttle LIRR passengers. This is important because it was Ed Mangano who decimated bus service in Nassau County by removing the MTA from operation of Nassau's buses and brought in a private company which has slashed the amount of and quality of service. I'm aware of the harassment claims against Governor Cuomo as well, which is why I believe it is important for you to request that Cuomo to resign or be impeached from office, as well as the removal of Pat Foy as MTA chairman. You have a duty to uphold the law and protect your constituents. Please help hashtag Save Transit and stop these cuts from happening. But did Anna Kaplan ever do anything? No, she didn't do anything about it. So that's the kind of nonsense that goes on from Anna Kaplan. All right, it's ridiculous. And here's somebody else who didn't do anything about it: Laura Curran. Yes, Nassau County Executive Laura Curran, who I tried to get in touch with, calling her office, but apparently all I get is an answering machine. So she doesn't really care. She only cares about a certain demographic too. You know, like I said, we got to work together, but this is still corruption. The fact is, the Wall Street wants this to happen. They want this to happen. That's why Wall Street's behind Cuomo. You know, they want this to happen because this isn't affecting them. They're working from home. They're not going to their offices in the city, and it's killing the city. They need to get back into the offices, but they don't want to get back in the offices. So the city is suffering as a result of that. They're working from home. They're not taking the trains, so they're not going to be affected by this. Who is going to be affected by this? It's the essential workers. The construction workers, the doctors at the hospitals, a lot of them take the train. A lot of essential workers rely on the train. Those are the people that are going to be hurt by this. Cuomo, he doesn't give a damn about the essential workers. He doesn't give a damn about them. He only cares about Wall Street. It's the same thing again. It's the same damn thing again. So I'm just going to read to you what I don't know if they've read my speech at Passengers United today. I have to watch the video. I know that there's hopefully a video of the whole thing prepared for Passengers United as well. So I will read this and then we're going to wrap up this video. I join everyone over the disgust with these cuts to LIRR service. Just as more things are opening up and more people take the trains, the MTA has the audacity to cut service at some of the busiest times on the railroad. Yes, I understand projects need to be completed, but that work usually takes place on weekends anyway. To leave so many stations with only one train an hour in rush hour is disgraceful. You do not care about our safety, especially in the midst of a pandemic. It will be impossible for people to keep a safe distance from each other, possibly causing the LIRR to become a key place for transmission of COVID-19, especially when the mask policy is poorly enforced. And I often see people not wearing a mask or not wearing it properly, like almost every time I take the train. The reason why neighboring states like NJ Transit have maintained their service levels is because they want to make sure each train ran is not crowded. And it's also because the state of New Jersey has done a great job keeping transit funding. Meanwhile, in New York, Cuomo has the goal to cut funding. And this is why I'm demanding the governor resign from his position, in addition to the numerous disturbing evidence of harassment. I'm also demanding that MTA Chairman Pat Foy resign as well. It is no surprise that Foy has left more riders stranded than any other MTA chairman. This goes back to his record as deputy county executive in Nassau, when County Executive Mangano removed MTA bus operations in Nassau County and turned them over to a private company. Shortly afterwards, the quality of bus service has taken a nosedive, and there have been many cuts to service as well. More riders are forced to have to get ripped off by taxis, Ubers, and Lyfts. So isn't it more than ironic that Ed Mangano, who was found guilty of corruption, has his former deputy running the MTA. It's an indication of Governor Cuomo's corruption and agenda, as well as we've now seen the LIRR riders often stranded with no alternative transportation during both planned and unplanned disruptions. And these cuts will cause more to be stranded. For those with cars, they will simply give up on the railroad and their monthly to avoid putting themselves at risk for COVID and to avoid being late from work. That's a huge revenue loss the MTA hasn't factored in. We also don't see such severe cuts at Metro North, which again is ironic since the governor and many of his friends live in Westchester. Including you, Lisa Daglian. Don't you live in Westchester? The corruption with this governor and the MTA is reaching a tipping point. I stand with Passengers United in demanding these cuts be avoided. Especially with yet more federal aid on the way, it shows that those that run the MTA are destroying the system. These cuts could be the beginning of the end for the MTA, as well as put more greenhouse gases in the air at a time of crisis in this climate, and we cannot allow this to happen. So, this is outrageous what's going on. All right, and people are not happy. You look at the Twitter, Long Island Railroad, and people are constantly. They have a lot of complaints on these posts. How is cutting rush hour trains, forcing more people onto each train, eliminating the little social distancing that was taking place, and keeping monthly passes at the same price, even though receiving fewer services, more efficient? This is going to be a cluster censored of epic proportion. LIRR is running 1/2 hour local service on the Babylon branch through rush hour peak travel, no express service. You think you have it bad. At least you're getting, at least wherever your station is, you're getting half-hourly service. It's typical somebody on the Babylon branch to complain when other people have it worse. But there are people on your branch that are getting stuck with hourly service, like people in Wantaw. He must be at one of the semi-express stations. It's going to be a mess everywhere tomorrow. Babylon branch, there is not going to be anywhere on the railroad that you're going to be able to have any distance. LIRR hates construction workers. That's why they bleeped all our trains, all right? So this is what they do. A commute that takes 15 now takes 40 because of a stupid transfer at Hicksville with a 20-minute wait with no waiting rooms opened. What the flying? So a lot of choice words for the railroad here. People are really angry. Things are really just starting to boil over right now. And I really wish Phil Eng... we'll go to the MTA's page. I really wish Phil Eng would do something and say, you know what? It's not me. It's Pat Foy. You got to come forward because you know what? Let me get to his picture and we'll talk about Phil Eng. All right, so Phil Eng, you need to stop being a coward, all right? I don't think Phil Eng is a bad person. I honestly don't. But he doesn't have the chutzpah to stand up to this kind of nonsense. All right? It's obvious Pat Foy has told him this. I don't think Phil Eng even wanted to do this. This is Pat Foy telling him, you got to do this or you're going to lose your job. And here's the thing. He's going to lose his job anyway because the riders are going to blame him for this instead of Pat Foy. They're going to blame him. All right? So, Phil Eng, you need to come out and say, you know what? This is a mistake. This is not my choice. I was ordered to do this by Pat Foy. You need to tell people that because Pat Foy needs to be brought down. Nobody wants to go. It's just like with the governor, all right? It took for the ages, and finally people are starting to go against the governor. Finally, people are demanding the governor resign. Well, now it's time for Mr. Pat Foy to resign as well, all right? People need to stand up to him because look at that. That's the face of a bully right there. You see on the screen. That's the face of a bully. That's the face of a bully right there. That's what you call a bully. All right? And we don't need that at the MTA. We need somebody who actually cares about riders and improving service. Pat Foy doesn't. He wants to leave you stranded. So that's been my video on this. And again, thanks to Passengers United for making the press today and bringing awareness to this. And let's hope that, this week is going to be such a mess that hopefully this will finally be the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to Pat Foy and the corruption games going on at the MTA, as well as Governor Andrew Cuomo, who refuses to resign. Well, I think it's time we impeach him. All right, I think it's time we impeach him. It's time that Governor Cuomo be removed from office as soon as possible. And also, you, Mr. Pat Foy, you need to be removed from your position as soon as possible, because any more days with you at the chair at the helm of the MTA will cause almost permanent damage to the organization, as it will take a very long time to get those riders back that we've lost. And you say, oh, we've lost them from the pandemic. A lot of those construction workers, they're going to drive. Half your riders on the railroad could be gone after this week. It's going to be so bad because they don't want to put themselves at risk of catching COVID. They don't want to be late for work because you decided to cut a bunch of service that shouldn't have been cut in the first place. That's it. Thanks for watching.